nothing gold can stay. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. That is a poem written by Robert Frost in 1923, published in October of that year. The title of the poem is Nothing Gold Can Stay. This poem was used in one of my favorite books and movies. A lot of you probably would recognize it from school reading requirements. It was The Outsiders. And in the scene where Pony Boy quotes this poem, there's looking off into a golden sunset. And Pony Boy's trying to explain what the poem means. And so he quotes this Nothing Gold Can Stay by Robert Frost. And today I thought I would show you not only that you don't necessarily have to paint on canvas, but I thought we'd do something fun with our canvas and try to illustrate this particular painting. So we'll just get right into it. Okay, so as you see here, we've got a large, fairly cheap plate, and it was originally gold, something I had in my shed. It had gotten pretty well beaten up, and we actually discarded most of the set, but I found a couple that were decent enough that I could recycle them into a painting canvas. I wanted to try around. So I've taken this gold plate here, and I've shot the center of it with a white matte coat and just allowed it to overspray the outer edges of it. I'll show you the color palette and the tools we're going to use. Okay, so for our color palette today, I'm going to be mixing these while you're looking at this footage. We have just a plain yellow, it's just a primary yellow. We have the same yellow with just a touch of white, just a touch of red, and then we'll go again with the same yellow and about the same amount of red as we put into this one. About a 60-40 blue-white mixture that we're going to make our light blue with. Our primary blue, the same primary blue with just a touch of black, and white. And our toolkit for today, we're going to need, obviously, our palette knife. We're going to use our 1-inch stippling brush. This is just a 1-inch brush that's well used and been trimmed to a decent shape again. I'm going to use 2 1-inch brushes. We'll have our blending brush, which is just literally a blending brush for makeup. It's got real soft bristles. Got our script liner. I'm not sure what size it is, but we've got our script liner. And I've got a custom script liner here that I've made for detailing when I was doing model cars. It's the same script liner, just with the bristles cut extra short. Makes them a little more firm, and it obviously reduces the brush stroke. And we've got our 1/2-inch square nylon stippling brush, again just well used, and our fan brush. Then our extras, of course, we've got our little template we use to make our circles, and our white gel pen for signature. We don't really have a plan what we're going to do here. We just know we've got a round canvas. I think I've decided we're going to do a golden water sunset. First, we want to figure out where we want our sun to be. And I think I want my sun to be right here in this general area. So I'm just going to block in some yellow. Make sure I got plenty of yellow blocked in to accommodate where I want my sun to be. I'm going to stay with that same dirty brush. I'll take our circle stencil And I'm going to put it just about halfway up. We're going to go into the light orange that we made, and I did have to add a little bit more white to it after I shot the footage of our color palette. And we're just going to work our way around it. Make sure we're extending out. Don't worry about a few little streaks. We're just going to work our way around it. Work with anything we get, which I'm finding out that working with this particular stencil on a slick surface is not a fun idea. But as you see, it still created our light source. This is a two brush method. Looks like it's going to stay wet a little longer being on this particular medium, but get our blending brush out just barely wet just the tips. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but right about there where the dark portion is, that's about how much I want to wet the tips. I want to flick out the excess. And holding my color brush in the other hand, and it's going to be a really light touch. I mean, we're talking, if the bristles bend, you're probably touching it too hard. Just going to kind of circular motion right on the edge of that color gradient that we're trying to create. As you see, we're not getting a perfectly round sun, but we can work with that. And I'll take the same dirty brush, and we're going to go into our darker orange that we made. And you got to be careful with this because you don't want to get out of that gold color spectrum. We're just going to figure out a general area where we want our oranges to separate. What I was looking for here by lightening up that second color was I wanted them to have the same hue, just a lighter shade. So it may not be translating on camera that we're using a different color here. But I wanted to have the same hue but a lighter shade. We're just going to kind of work our way. We want to try not to work up these edges here. We want to keep as much of it in the center of the plate as we can. Because what we want to do later on is we want to be able to come back with our stippling brush and work a nice soft edge onto it before we extend into this frame area. We'll clean out the brush. And that's the fun part. Get a really good flick. And then as old Bob Ross used to say, just beat the devil out of it. Set that aside. Do our quick little blend right here. Same method. You see how it'll pick up the colors and blend them together. And like I said, I'm just barely touching it. Just barely touching it. Give it a nice little blend right over here because we don't want that to be brush stroke looking. Now, we'll take right here on the bottom of our easel or wherever we have. We're just going to make sure we get the excess out. I tend to use my easel so I don't use a lot of paper towel or tissue or anything like that. It's going to kind of work our way from our light source. Just kind of smooth out our brush strokes as much as we can without actually moving paint. We just want to smooth out our brush strokes. Same thing at the bottom. Just kind of smooth those brush strokes out. Start picking up too much paint. Just make sure you're not leaving anything on your cleaning, whatever you're using. In my case, it's the bottom of my easel. Working from the center out, trying not to make new brush stroke lines. You just want to kind of smooth out what's already there. See, we've already got a good workings of a golden sunset going here. Excuse me. Now we're going to go into our lightest blue. Doesn't seem like it makes sense. Actually, I'm saying that backwards. I'm looking at another golden sunset painting that I did, and I actually got that backwards. We're going to go into our dark blue. We're going to use our 1-inch stippling brush. And that's the short one that's been abused. So I'll tap some color into the tip of it. Again, our darker blue that we made. Right around the edge here of this orange, just going to tap basically one brush width of color around that. That's going to get us into our blue scale. Again, right to our blending brush. Just give it a little light swirl. Because you just want to soften it. You just want to soften that edge. This isn't a color gradient change. It's a color spectrum change. I got a little bit onto my frame area, but that's fine. I'll accept that on this piece. Now, as I originally thought, we're going to go into our lighter blue. We're just going to brush in. Make sure you pick up a little bit of that dark blue. Just brush in an area of lighter blue. And again, like I said, it's a two-handed method. With acrylics, it has to be a two-handed method because they dry so fast. I'll give it a nice little softer edge. Pick up a little bit of the darker blue, bringing it into the lighter blue, giving it a little bit of a fade like we did with the oranges. And then again, start at the middle, just kind of smooth those strokes out. The reason we smooth the strokes out is because if we were putting trees and land masses and all that kind of stuff in the foreground, we would want a smooth enough background that when we lay in those different brush strokes to create those fine details, then it will translate as depth and details. And a deciduous tree right here on a nice smooth horizontal background, and you stipple in all your leaves, that gives the impression of each individual leaf automatically. So now we're going to go into our medium blue. Let it up just enough to cover up. See, we're still using the same dirty brush. Let it up just enough to cover most of that previous color. Fill in however much of the other area you want. Since I've already gotten up onto the frame area, I'm just going to let it happen. Okay. Go ahead and drop that brush in the water because you're going to clean it after that anyway. Again, with the light swirling strokes to give it a color blend. You blend it out as much as you want or as little as you want. And start at the middle. Give it that smooth out, making sure you get all your brush strokes facing the same direction. And we're going to change color next time. Yes, this blending brush can be a pain in the neck to clean at the end, but you want to keep it as dry as possible, only wetting it when you need to. Okay. So now we're going to use our 1-inch stippling brush, and we're going to go into our dark blue. We're just going to kind of tap it in. Just kind of tap it in around there, because we're not going to have a whole lot of this color in here. Just kind of tap it in around here. When you get the coverage you like, that's your painting. When you get the coverage you like of this particular color, then it's time to move on. And we've got two 1-inch straight brushes that we're working with. And there's going to be a reason for that here in just a moment. Let's clean that color out of the brush real quick. And old Bob Ross used to say that the beat the devil out of the portion of cleaning the brush was the best part, and I think I kind of agree with it. Now we're going to go into our dark blue, or medium blue, I mean. We're going to go into our medium blue. We're going to start at our edges. We're just going to straight stroke it in. Just a straight stroke. Now, this is a little tricky for me. This, like I said, this is the first time I've worked with something other than canvas or wood, something non-porous. Okay. Well, straight stroke that in. I'm glad this is just a regular blue. I might have to put a little bit more on my palette. Matter of fact, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to get some more. Well, I'm getting some more paints. I'm using apple barrel acrylics, liquid acrylics for crafters. They're a pretty good paint. They the only drawback I can say is they don't indicate whether it's a transparent or opaque color, but they flow pretty well. They have pretty decent open time, but they also still do dry quick. And if you're using a flat palette like I do, you may not want to hold it. And come in from the other side, do the same thing. Just working that color on. Okay, just working that color on. So, like I said, an advantage to using this non-porous surface is our paint is staying wet or open a little longer. Those of you that know the terminology, open means it stays. Those of you that know the terminology know what open means, but those of you that don't, open means that's how long it stays wet. It's how long it stays workable. Okay, now drop that brush in the water. Now we're going to take here, and first thing we want to do, we want to do a little bit of a blend right here, just a little bit. We don't want to change the color. We just want to smooth out that edge that we created. Okay, just smooth that edge out. Only the top edge. The bottom edge, we're going to do something else with it. And since I got a few spots that I don't like, I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom. Okay. Start at the middle. Start on your lighter color first. Make sure you're not leaving any of the darker color behind. Start on your lighter color first. And again, we're just going to even out those strokes. Even out those strokes. Smooth them out. Make them all look the same. This painting's not going to look like I wanted it to. I probably should have masked my frame area, but we're just going for it this time. I'll figure out how to make it work afterwards. Okay, now we're going to get that excess out of there. And remember we said we've got two 1-inch brushes. I've got a clean 1-inch brush here. I'm just going to touch just the tips of it in water. I've got 2 buckets of water going. I've got a cleaning water and a clean water. I'm just going to touch the tips into our clean water. Get a little bit too much in there, just get the excess out. And then we're going to start where we think we want our horizon line. We're just going to start going down. And it's not going to matter if we pick up a little bit of color at this point. See, I got my horizon line a little weird, but that's okay. Now what we're doing here is we're creating a shadow, a reflection effect. So we'll set that to the side for now. We'll go back to our blending brush. Now this is where it gets tricky, especially when they're staying open this long, because you don't want to move that paint. You just want to blend it a little. You don't want to move it. You just want to blend it a little. So how Bob Ross used to explain the amount of pressure we're using at this point, just a few hairs and some air. That's it, just a few hairs and some air. Every once in a while, make sure you're not picking up color that you don't want to be moving. So what this does is it not only gives you a blended effect, but it also helps get rid of where you ended your brush strokes if you have that effect going on. So we've got that going on right there. Kind of got a little bit of a rough seas effect going. So I think we're going to clean that up just a little bit. We're going to take that same brush. Of course, I kind of cleaned it out a little bit. Finish cleaning it out. Get it as dry as you can get it. And just wherever you think your horizon line went off on you, give it a quick little drag. You're going to pick up a little bit of that color, and that's what's going to help you straighten out your horizon line. See, that horizon line looks a little bit better. And of course, you just did that, so you got to smooth it out. Now here's where we get to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to use my fine script liner. I'm going to go into my clean water and just load it with water. Don't even worry about shaking it out unless it drips. Go into your white. Get it flowable but not runny. Okay? And then you're going to start. This is a little tricky for me. You're going to start right where you want your horizon line to be. You want that horizon line to be as straight as possible. You know what? I skipped a step. Forgot. We get this black in here because we wanted to put a little bit of foreground in it. Just a little bit. We're going to go to our nylon stippling brush. Just load just the tips of the brush. Literally just the tips with your color. And you've got an idea of where you want your horizon line to be. You've got your reflection effect. Now what you want to do is you're going to tap in. Just tap it. And just give the indication of a tree line. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just give the indication of a distant tree line. Maybe get one little tree that just kind of almost blots out the sun. He's got a little buddy over here, a little bit bigger than him. You're tapping it to give that certain effect. Once you get the general idea of what you like going on here, then you keep on going. Now I don't want to add a whole lot of depth to this. I'm going to try to keep my horizon line in the general area where I thought I wanted it in the first place. And see, even at this point, picking up that little bit of white and blue is just kind of helpful, actually. Fill it in or leave it open as much as you want. Actually, I think I do. I'm going to give it a little bit of a shoreline over here, just so I can show you something. I'll go ahead and do it over here too, just because it got a little long on us. We got a little lower than I planned. So, no mistakes, just accidents. And if we work them just right, we can turn them into what Bob Ross used to like to call happy accidents. So we got that in there. I'll drop that brush. We'll go back to our brush we keep calling our clean brush. Remember, we dropped it in the water to keep that other color from drying on it. And every once in a while, I want it a little bit drier than I've got it, so I'll use a towel or something. In this case, I'm wearing some old jeans, and I'm just wiping it on those. Okay, so I'm liking the way that feels. It's not feeling real wet. It's not leaving any moisture on my hand. I'm going to go back, and we're just going to touch just the small area. And what we're going to do, of course, we're going to do it this way, but what we're going to do is we're going to touch it, drag it down just a hair, and then give it a flick. Just that kind of effect. Just a quick little. That gives the impression of a reflection of your tree line. Of course, we want to try to follow straight as much as possible. We'll grab our blending brush. Again, we don't want to move that. We want to make sure we're not leaving any color. We don't want to move what we just did. We just want to smooth it out. Smooth it out some. Let's see, I'm picking up a little bit of color, and I didn't want to do that, but that's okay. Just get rid of it. So it just smoothed out right there. Now we can go to what we tried to do. There's a couple ways to do this, but I'm thinking with this particular piece, the palette knife is not going to be a good idea. So we're going to do our white. We're going to figure out where our shoreline is going to be the straightest. I'm just going to lay that in. You can use the regular script liner. I'm using the detail liner because I just like the line it gives me better. And sometimes even then it doesn't give me what I want. But we can work with it. As you're coming across these areas where you're adding depth, you don't want to follow them. You want to keep your lines going horizontal. You don't want to follow that line and turn it vertical or anything like that. You want to follow those lines. And now you're hearing my dogs going crazy. They're still trying to get used to the fact that the kids decided they were going to adopt a new dog. And I say adopt, but they found it running the streets. It was a stray. She's a pretty good dog. She's a husky. She's a pretty good dog. So they're still trying to get used to that. So we may hear from them once in a while. You want to keep these water lines going as straight as possible, as horizontal as possible. If you get one that doesn't come out horizontal, just work with it. You can work it out to being horizontal later as you go. And one thing I like is the way I blend. If it's too much, I just kind of come in here and I just kind of give it a little swipe. You just want to try to drag just that white. If it drags a little bit of your reflective color, that's fine. It'll actually help you, especially if you get it too blotchy like I did. That'll help you. Put that lighter brush down for now. We're done with it for now. Okay. So that's not exactly the line I was looking for, but we can make that work. Go ahead and get that out. Any paint I picked up out of there. Now, I'll go into just my plain white. Get my fan brush good and wet. Not super wet. Working with a wet brush is generally always helpful when you're working with acrylics. Load it up with white. I mean load it up. Both sides. Load it up. Now you're going to start with the corner of the brush. Right toward the tip of your light source. My method for doing this isn't the same as everybody else's. Eventually you get to a point where you're just tapping it in. Let it get a little whiter as you go. As you get closer to the foreground, that reflection is going to get whiter. You want to let that happen. Okay. Now back to our blending brush. It's been my experience a lot of times, this looks like it's going to ruin it when we do this. But trust me, trust the process. It brightens up your water and adds a little bit more shimmer to your water once you get it blended out as much as you want. Keep those lines going vertical. See, I've got a couple areas there where it's just not blending enough. So I'm going to help it along. Help it along by adding a little more pressure to it. You see how, even though it's kind of looking hazy as you're doing it, it is kind of brightening up that water some. Now, I don't think I need, well, I'll just show you just so I can. You can take and get a little more in depth to it. Maybe add a couple little ripples off to the sides here. Just because of the way it's working out, I needed a ripple down there. Same thing, just kind of work it till you get the effect you want. Blend it out as much or as little as you want, so you get what you want happening. And there we go. We got us a nice little water there. Now, I noticed a minor mistake. I'm just going to go back to my 1-inch brush. Of course, it's been sitting in our cleaning water for a while. I want to get that tinted cleaning water out of it in the clean water. Believe it or not, that does not actually change the color of your cleaning water. It doesn't put any tint in your cleaning water because most of the colors came out in your cleaning water. See, I notice up here, I've gone all the way out to the edge on the whole painting, but I notice up here I didn't get to the edge. So I'm just going to go into my medium blue, which is just the plain blue. I'm just going to fill that in right quick. Get a quick little blend, quick little smooth stroke, and there we go. There's that. Now, I'll notice something else, but I can fix it a lot easier than what we just did this. Okay, so I got this spot here that I didn't get color where I wanted it. I got a spot over there I didn't get color where I wanted it. I'm going to Clean out that nylon stippling brush that we used to create our tree line in the first place. Whoops, didn't get enough color out of it, that's okay. Yeah, when you're doing this whole flicking and beating thing, you do want to make sure you're getting all the color out of it, or you could very rapidly redecorate your room, as Bob Ross used to say. And this has been my first experience with that happening so far, but it does happen. I just witnessed it. So I'm going to tap a little bit of my black back into my stippling brush here, and I'm just going to work my way up, starting where I've already put color. And I'm going to make this tree right here on the edge a little bit taller. Maybe even making it a little bit wider. There we go. And we can do the same thing over here. This little spot I didn't like. Start where I've already got color. And make him a little bit taller. I'll hide that spot some. There we go. I'm actually going to leave a tree line there like that. Okay, so do we want to do a bravery test? I think we need to do a bravery test here. We're going to clean out our fan brush. We're not ready to do a bravery test. We've got to, we need to put some clouds in here, I think. I think we need to put a few little clouds up in here. So we're going to load up with our white. And then we're going to pull just a touch of our light blue into it. What we're looking for is pretty white enough that it will translate as white on the canvas, but it's not actually white. Okay, so it's white enough it'll translate as white up here, but out here, as you see, it's not actually white. It's got a blue tint to it. I'm just going to kind of, you want to have this motion going on. Okay, a little bit of a twisting motion while you do it. A lot of people like to use the corner of the brush, which is fine. Just kind of give an outline of a general shape of a cloud. And this guy's going to be pretty big. He's probably the one that's going to bring rain later this evening. And you go along the bottoms. You start at the bottom, work your way up with that circular motion. You just blend it in or out as much as you want. Once you get it blended the way you want, give it a lift and smooth. Okay, let's do it. Let's do a smaller one over here. Maybe he lives, yep, right there. Okay. Blend it in, blend it out, whatever, as much as you want. And see these colors that are peeking through, that's what's going to give you your color gradients in your cloud. See? I think we need one more up in here. Maybe it's coming in from the top. I'm going to load that brush again. Yeah, maybe it's coming in from the top. And it's a pretty good size one. We're going to bring it in. We're not going to see the top of this one. Give it some character. Wherever you put your lighter color, that's where it's going to have a highlight. So wherever you put your color is where you're going to get a highlight on your cloud. Okay. Let me come down this way a little bit. Now wet that blending brush just a bit. Just a bit. I didn't like the way those other stuff were blending in. Okay. So same motion. Same motion. Just keep it blending. Get a little bit of this, a little bit of this. Okay. Now we're going to come back in here. We're going to give a little bit of highlight. Using our same color. We'll give a little bit of highlight. Wherever we think it needs a highlight, we're going to give a little bit of highlight. We're going to allow that to blend in as we go. And I'm allowing my fan brush to tip down, just to pull itself down just a little bit as we go. Okay. So. Now, I'll take my blending brush. Just give it a little smooth. That's it, just a little smooth. There we go. Now it's bravery test time. Now we're going to clean out this fan brush. Get as clean as we can. When I'm cleaning my brushes, I'm actually painting the bottom of my container. I'm working to paint out the brush using the bottom of my container. So we're gonna load that brush up with black. How brave do you feel? Let's see. Let's put. We're just for the sake of it, we're gonna put right here. Yeah, he lives right there. He's about that tall. We're gonna tap in the general shape. Then we're gonna work it. Work down both sides, getting it as smooth as possible. Let it get a little wider as you go down. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You got a little taller than we planned, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but you want it to appear straight. Unless you're trying to get a crooked tree. This particular tree shouldn't be crooked because they tend to grow straight. Okay. We're going to keep that black in the fan brush. We'll get our stippling brush. Now, we want to be careful we don't go overboard with this step. Same thing we did with this area. Don't load up the tips. Tap it in, tap the color into the tips. And we're going to add just an impression of some undergrowth. Okay, just an impression of some undergrowth. Actually, there's one that had some undergrowth right in here. Okay, now we're going to go back to our fan brush. We're going to figure out a general idea of where we want branches to be. And you're going to do touch and flick, touch and flick. Okay, you're not getting the full effect of what we're doing here just yet. Touch, flick, touch, flick, touch, flick. However big you want this to be. Just make sure we're doing a classic palm tree. So you want to make sure that it's coming to a point. It's not coming to a point, just kind of force it to. Remember, these classic palm trees, they tend to have an umbrella shape, but you don't have to. See, that gives the impression that we're looking at that leaf from the bottom, from a straight angle, and it's sagging down. But we want to see a little bit of both sides of this leaf. So we're going to go both directions with it. Okay. And we'll go up here. Maybe we got a few leaves that come out together. I like to just kind of lay in my center line. It gives me an idea of what I want to do with my shape. Not a requirement, but it helps. Remember to let these get a little wider as you get closer to the tree itself. So now we're going to put another one. This little guy stands out kind of alone. Ones at the top of the tree are shorter. Now, if this tree was windblown, you would want them all your fronds and tips going the same direction. You'd actually probably want to take these over here and let it feel like they're getting blown into the wind, or you know, whichever way your wind's blowing. One more big one right here. Trying to keep my hand out of the way. That's what's making it awkward for me. There we go. The good thing when you're doing a bigger one is you don't have to know exactly where you want it to end. Let's see. It's not the prettiest palm tree we've done. I've done better. But there's a general impression of a palm tree. I think we're going to call this one done. And we're going to put the signature. Look for a dry spot. It's acrylics. You're going to have a dry spot. Look for a dry spot. Some people use their script liner. I don't like my signature with a script liner, so I use this gel pen. Actually, I think I'm going to have to try a different pen. See if I can get a hold of it. And on this smooth surface, the gel pen's not working. You always want to have a backup. I've got a fine tip, Sharpie style. It's not an actual Sharpie. I like to put the year on my signature. I guess you could call that my trademark with the way I do my signature. But there you have it. Nothing gold can stay in a Florida waterscape form.